For the introduction, heat exchanger is a mechanical device that efficiently transmits heat energy from one fluid to another fluid without causing the fluids to come in contact. A well-designed heat exchanger can maximize the heat transfer between the hot and cold fluid with a reasonable pressure drop and operational costs. In order to examine the ideal design of the heat exchanger, various research and optimization algorithms have been developed to find out the best combination of the variable parameters such as length, width, height and thickness of the fin and many others. However, in multi-pass plate fin heat exchanger as shown, we found that there is no any research paper that consider the channel cross-sectional length of the which is indicated by these figures in their optimization algorithm. We predict that this cross-sectional length will have an impact towards the heat transfer rate and pressure drop. Therefore, we are interested in choosing this as the topic of our CFD project title. The objective of our project is first to investigate the impact of different channel cross-sectional length in multi-pass plate fin heat exchanger towards the heat transfer rate, outlet velocity, and the pressure drop at different inlet velocity. And second is suggest the best channel cross-sectional length that result in highest performance of plate fin heat exchanger by reaching compromise between the heat transfer rate and pressure drop.
Okay, next we will move to the methodology. The model that are being used in this project are 4-layer plate fin heat exchanger with dimension of 100mm length, 100mm wide and also 37mm height, which is a small portion of the benchmark model we referred to with the dimension of 1000mm length, 1000mm wide and also 1523mm height. Both dimensions do not include the cross-sectional length of the channel. After creating the 3D model, we create an S-group for the ideal wall, hot and cold inlet and also outlet to distinguish them during the setup. The volume is extracted in the prepare interface to define the control volume of the hot and cold fluid. Next, during the meshing step, face meshing is used to select all surface and deselect all inlet and outlet. For the initial condition setup, the temperature at hot inlet is set at the 360 Kelvin, whereas the temperature at cold inlet is set at 300 Kelvin. The inlet velocity of both hot and cold are always set the same at 0.02 meter per second, 0.2 meter per second and also 2 meter per second. The material used for the wall of the PFHE is aluminium in the ANSYS screen database. All info about the thermal conductivity and also specific heat are stated in this slide.
This is the result of our first test run. The temperature control of the hot and cold fluid is very reasonable and inlet and outlet temperature is in between 300 and 360 Kelvin. Therefore, we are convenient that all the parameters, boundary layers and initial condition has been set up correctly. This is the graph for the grade independent test. The element size needed for 5, 10 and 15mm length to produce steady result are 1mm, 1mm and 2mm with the two successive percentage of the difference is less than 5%. This is the graph of the static temperature difference between the hot and cold outlet against cross-sectional length at the different inlet velocity. We can see the temperature difference increase when the cross-sectional length increase at all velocity except for 5mm and 10mm length at 0.02 meter per second where the temperature difference decrease a little. Next, the average outlet velocity against cross-sectional length. This table represents the changes in the magnitude of the average outlet velocity when the cross-sectional length increase, where the green indicated the fast, followed by yellow and red is lowest. This shows that the average outlet velocity decrease when the cross-sectional length increase regardless of the inlet velocity. For the static pressure drop, since the flow type in the simulation is set up as the velocity inlet, the static pressure at the inlet and outlet is generated automatically in ANSYS Fluent. From the table, the trend is totally similar compared to average outlet velocity just now. As the cross-sectional length increase, the temperature drop decrease.
From the results, it is clear that a decrease in cross-sectional length will increase heat transfer rate and outlet velocity. but it will also increase the pressure drop. Looking at this velocity distribution contour for 0.02 meter per second, it is observed that the circulation region is formed for the smallest cross-sectional length, which is 5 mm length. However, its impact towards the heat transfer rate is significant, only at 0.02 meter per second. This recirculation causes the temperature of the fluid near the surface to increase, which leads to a decrease in the heat transfer rate, as shown in the previous section, where 10 mm has a lower static temperature difference compared to 5 mm length. However, this only happens at low velocity because the effect of the circulation size decreases with increase in inlet velocity. Whereas for pressure drop, it decreases with increasing cross-sectional length. The pipe coefficient is larger when the cross-sectional area is smaller. This is because the velocity of the fluid increases as the cross-sectional area decreases, which leads to an increase in frictional losses due to the turbulence and viscosity. The larger the diameter of the pipe, the smaller the bend loss coefficient. The smaller the radius of the bend, the larger the bend loss coefficient. In short, when the cross-sectional length decreases, the velocity of the outlet fluid will increase, causing an increase in the heat transfer rate and higher pressure drop, with the prerequisite that the circulation region is not significant. The second objective, to find the best cross-sectional length, we need the help of Excel tools to plot the graph of temperature difference versus temperature drop. Since the different inlet velocity produce different pressure and temperature, the best cross-sectional length has to be plotted separately as shown below. The length at which each point has the shortest distance to the origin of the graph will be considered to have the best compromise between the heat transfer rate and pressure drop. From the graph, the shortest distance of the point to the origin is the 10 mm cross-sectional length at all velocity, hence it is the correct length that will result in the highest performance of the heat exchanger. Conclusion, heat transfer rate will be enhanced when the cross-sectional length is decreased. However, it will increase the operational cost due to a larger pressure drop. Therefore, a compromise between maximizing the heat transfer rate while minimizing the pressure drop has to be found. Lastly, it is hoped that this parameter will be included in the optimization algorithm in the future.